Well, if Michael Owen showed precision and great clarity of thought during his football career, he then went and got himself into racing and breeding. But not only that, he got really stuck in, and he's still stuck in at his Manor House Stables in Cheshire, where now the man training the horses and holding the licence is multiple classic winning trainer Hugo Palmer. Not many people saw it coming when long-standing occupant Tom Dascombe left, and indeed they could be conceived of as racing's odd couple, but they're here and it seems to be working. Gentlemen, good morning, welcome to Luck on Sunday.
Good morning. Good to be here.
So how's it going?
Great, life's good, yeah. We're at the anticipation stage of the year, I think. All the two-year-olds are broken in and cantering away, so it's all exciting at the moment.
And you've still got that boyish glint in your eye about a whole load of two-year-olds cantering. You've seen this a fair few times before now, and you've had a fair few hopes and dreams dashed. What keeps your interest in the game?
Well, the game in general, really. I've been involved in it all my life, basically. I mean, people say, what was the... When you finish football and then you converted into horses, it's like, what do you mean? I mean, they went hand in hand right from the start. I made my debut at 17 in the Liverpool team and bought my first horse at 18. Bought Manor House Stables, an old arable farm, at 23. And the footballing world had a right go at me, saying I'm taking my eye off the ball and things like that. But horses and myself have gone back right throughout my life, really. So the game just, it just excites me, motivates me, gets me out of bed. And since I finished football, it's even more at the forefront of my mind.
You don't need puffing up. You've had plenty of that from plenty of people over the years. And indeed, you walked into this building at 5 o'clock this morning, straight off a plane from Hong Kong, and was recognised by absolutely nobody, which must have been extremely reassuring for you in many respects. But at that time, when you're in your early 20s and the most recognisable person, give or take, in the land, you must have had an awful lot of people telling you what not to do. Yeah,
probably, and horses was probably the thing that they said don't do. Yeah. Hey, and I'm not stupid. If you were going to have a lot of money and invest it into something and make that, your ultimate thing that drives you in life, then, the last thing really I should have done is stick it into a horse racing stables. But as I said to you before, it's what makes me bounce out of bed every morning. The staff, trainer, the horses, the whole thing, the owners, the facility. When I drive, it takes me half an hour to get to the yard. When I go through the gates, it sends a shiver down my spine every single time.
So what is it about this sport that got you in the first place?
In the first place?
Yeah, in the very first place.
Betting. I love the betting, the understanding, the puzzle that you could solve, the trainers, the jockeys. My dad always used to teach me when I was a kid, Saturday afternoon, watching the racing, who the trainers to follow and things like that. So that's definitely what started out, but then quickly changed. And I'd say that the competition, the understanding, I think, of being an athlete myself and listening to vets, listening to trainers, why, how, what, how's a horse feel, what's it do, why do you do this before, why do you give 2 canters, not 1, why do you gallop it and not... So the whole thing used to fascinate, still does. And then I have cycles. I mean, at the moment, for the last sort of few years, it's the whole social. My life really, or my main focus on racing used to be, I've got to get a champion horse. And I still want that, but I want a champion stable. And I don't care if it's in my colours or not. All the horses at Manor House Stables feel like mine anyway. So I just, now it's about the business, now it's about success, it's about the owners, about meeting new people, fascinates me. So the whole business really of running a stable is the thing that sort of fascinates me at the moment.
And have there been times since you started the Manor House project where you thought, I'm biting off more than I can chew here?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I suppose that there have been, of course. I bought it myself, sold half the business to Andrew Black. Probably, I don't know, what are we talking, 15 years ago maybe. Bought Andrew back out only a year or two ago. And yeah, thinking...
That's got to be a bit of a gulp moment, hasn't it?
It has,
Even if you're well-resourced.
Yeah, but you know as well as I do, I always liken it to a football team. You know, it's all right buying a club, but then you've got to pay the wages of the players. Then you've got to make transfers, i.e. buying the horses, and you know it doesn't end. So yeah, I mean, I've literally thrown everything into a second career. Now I still work in football, of course. I do TV work. As you say, I've just come back from Hong Kong, dusted the boots off for a game or whatever. So I still do a lot of work in my sport, I say. But racing, I've thrown absolutely everything into it.
So you've got to find the right staff, of course. You've got to find the right horses. Also got to find the right manager.
Exactly, yeah, and I'm a big believer in you put the right people in the right places. You get the best trainer, the best farrier, the best of everything, and then you can not sit back, but you can relax and think, right, well, I've done that. All the right roles are filled, and then, you know, yes, you're there. I'm there every minute I can be. You can guide in certain areas, help in certain areas, but a lot of the time you rely on their expertise. And
people would have laid long odds about a dual classic winning member of the Newmarket training establishment joining Manor House in Cheshire, Hugo. How hard was that process for you to go from something that people would have been very familiar with seeing you in to something completely different?
I don't know how hard the process was. It took me quite a long time to make the decision. I said no to Michael 2 or 3 times, and then, fun enough, Vanessa, my wife, and I were up in Scotland over New Year, and we've been away from Newmarket for a week when Michael rang for the final time, and we sat there by the fire. And
was it quite clear it was the final time?
Well, I mean, I think
anymore.
If he had said no, there would have been another final time.
the time that I accepted, and yeah, we'd been away from Newmarket for a week, and kind of thought, well, you know, let's go and seed. And you know, moving families and house and everything is never particularly easy. I mean, they say that the second most stressful thing in the world after divorce is moving house. But it was something that we wanted to do, and I'm incredibly glad that we have. It's great.
What was appealing about it?
I think what was appealing about it was the opportunity to sort of partner up with Michael in many ways, and to try and create something bigger than what I'd created in Newmarket, which very much so far we have. We've got more 2-year-olds for this coming season than I've had in, I think, 6 seasons. We'll have sort of mid-50s number of 2-year-olds, which is, you know, really pleasing number and a big step in the right direction. And it seemed like a great opportunity, and I'm, you know, delighted I took it.
And you didn't mind kind of ceding a little bit of that autonomy, because it's a different type of relationship now to what you had before.
It is a different type of relationship, but it's you know, you can't be too proud about these things. I fully understand that it's Michael's business, but it's a business that I'm hugely involved in and care about enormously. But my involvement is emotional. I'm not financially involved in the business. I'm not a business partner in it. And, you know,
does that suit you better?
Well, the racing world is a hard taskmaster. It's a hard place to make money, and you need a significant critical mass, and you need a large number of horses. And we have, what have we got, 120 horses for next year, which is more than we need to be making a profit, but not massively more than we need to be making a profit. And that's more horses than I had in Newmarket, and I relished the new challenge and relished a new way of thinking of things. You know, I can't remember quite how many horses I had when I accepted it, but, you know,
Not enough, I suppose, is the answer.
I think just about enough.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting. You know, trainers are made by their horses and their abilities, and, you know, I think we had roughly nearly 90 horses in Newmarket, and I think about nearly 70 came with me.
Yeah.
Of the 20-odd that didn't, there's one that went to James Fanshawe, who's quite a nice stayer. I'm not sure any of the rest of them won a race between them. And it's that sort of thing. God, I could have said no to Michael because I want to stay in Newmarket, and you know, luckily the horses that, you know, Dubai with Legend came with us and won a Group 3, and Nebra River didn't want to win another Group 1, but he came and won a listed race, and luckily it seemed that the better horses all came with me. But I think I'm really excited about where we are. I'm really delighted that we have moved forward, that we have got a larger number of 2-year-olds for this year. And every trainer will tell you how excited they are at this stage of the year, because everything's lovely.
Yeah.
All your geese and swans,
What we were saying earlier,
they're all unbeaten at this stage. But I really do believe that we can produce every bit as good results, if not better, at Manor House than we did in Newmarket.
And I asked the question to Michael, and I've no doubt, because I heard it from enough people, that you had plenty of people telling you what you were doing wrong, moving out of Newmarket.
Yeah, I mean, I spoke to half a dozen people, of which, as you well remember, you were one.
Everyone has a
advice.
View. Everyone has a view.
And funny enough, of the half a dozen people whose advice I sought, I think 5 were all go for it.
Yeah. I told him not to touch it.
Were you the one?
I said, you're absolutely crazy. It does help, though, if you've got the confidence of having had classic winners under your belt. You had a pretty solid time of it with Hugo's predecessor, Tom Dascombe, didn't you, at Manor House? Because he was there, what, a dozen years?
Yeah.
And was that just one of those things that reached its natural conclusion, and you felt as a club owner, if you like, you needed to change management to push to then another level or do something different?
I think it was a little bit more complex than that. There was in the background as well. Obviously, there was Andrew Black, who was a partner in the business. So there was that relationship with himself and Tom. So yeah, I think I'm quite proud that 21 years, as I say, Manor House since I bought Manor House. Hugo was only the 3rd trainer. I mean, I would like to think I'm a very loyal person that gets on with people. I mean, it's hard to talk about a lot of things when you're with your partner in crime type of thing, but we get on like a house on fire. And I
would encourage you to be as frank as you wish to be.
No, absolutely, but I get on with people. I like people. I get on with people, and we had a dozen great years. But Manor House, I mean, I've got huge ambition and plans and everything else like that. So when you're looking for the next trainer, it has to be somebody that can take you there, that's done it on the biggest stage, and obviously Hugo was that person. And not just that, I mean, from a humane point of view as well, it's not like I'd never met Hugo. It's not like it was like, right, let's look at the trainer's table and let's look who's very good and give them the call. I mean, I used to stay at Hugo's house, for all the sales, for Newmarket Racing, different things like that, for 3-4 years before I even was thinking about a new trainer. So we were friendly before that. I knew him, knew his wife, Vanessa, his little boy, who was very little when I first started staying, and now he's a little bit bigger. But it didn't just happen, It was a relationship that was already there, and of course it was a big change for Hugo. So I had to keep my eyes open and my ears open, of course. But even though he said no at the start, I knew it wasn't like a no. It was, Anyway, so that's why I kept pursuing it.
OK, we talk about trying to bring owners into the sport. You've been positively evangelical in your own world, trying to get people from football and business into the sport. How are you doing right now against the backdrop of pretty uncertain times? And it doesn't matter if you've been a Premiership footballer and you've got gazillions. There are still better ways of spending it.
Well, absolutely. And it's the one thing, I mean, there are issues, of course, in our sport, no question about it, but I'm always of a positive mindset. I look at it from my business's point of view, and I see owners. I've never had demand like it at the moment. We've never had demand like it. We're going to, as Hugo said, be training over 50 2-year-olds this year alone.
And that's spurred by demand. That's not just you guys going out and saying, right, we'll just load this full and then try and sell them all.
Well, you've got to do a little bit of that. I've probably been a little bit ballsier than normal, but only on the back of Hugo's results, only in the back of a feel that I get amongst owners and people that I talk to and potential owners. So you go there, not having orders for 50 horses, but you pretty much know that, do you know what, there's a lot of excitement out there. So I can only speak from that point of view, and of course racing is struggling in certain areas. But at Manor House, we've got more people wanting to get involved than ever before. We'll train more horses this year than ever before. So it's really positive from my side. As I say, I've normally sat here thinking, still got 10 horses to sell. I think I've got 3 horses at the moment. So we're way ahead of the curve than we've been before, and we'll go to the breeze-ups with a few orders as well.
But how much of yourself do you then have to put into that? How much is it, right, I need Michael Owen to be a part of this in order to make this enjoyable? You know, to what extent are you having to put yourself out there?
Well, that's my job in a way. That's sort of probably my main role in the business. And yes, I do. So, you know, there's certain owners that might come in for the first time a little bit nervous. What do you do? You know, maybe want their hand holding a little bit, so you stay in a horse for a leg here and there. So, of course, there will be horses that I still retain percentages of, but that's fine.
Yeah.
I've got, you know, I don't need to own them all in my colours or anything else like that. So, yeah, I mean, there will always be an element of that at Manor House. There will always be an element of it. And I would actively encourage it as well. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's great when you sell a horse and it's sold and it's done and dusted and pay a training fee and the business ticks along lovely. But there will be certain occasions where I think, do you know what, might be worth getting it over the line just to take a little bit in with this new owner.
Okay.
Because who knows, he or she could
end up being a big spender.
Big one, yeah.
Exactly. And what about, Hugo, being able to compete at the very highest level? You've been there with pretty inexpensive horses. Galileo Gold and Covert Love really didn't cost an awful lot at all and ended up winning classics. But you know that's the exception to the rule, and you need a critical mass of regally bred horses to want to compete at the top table all the time. Is that possible as a bit of a geographical outlier without those huge owner breeders necessarily funneling their horses into your stable every year?
Well, look, we've Covert Love, Galileo Gold, Ebro River, Flaming Rib was second in the Commonwealth Cup, and I know he isn't a Group 1 winner, but he was fourth in the Haydock Sprint Cup. He was the 35 grand horse. You know, these were not horses that came from enormous battalions from owner breeders. And so, I mean, the answer to your question is simply yes. And also, other people are proving that it is too. You know, Carl Burke isn't training in Newmarket or Lambourne. You know, for just one example, you know, his success has allowed people to flock to him, and he now has.
But do you almost feel like you've got to prove yourself all over again, given the way that people in this sport tend to think and groupthink?
I think in any sport you have to prove yourself all over again every single season, and that's not whether you've just moved your yard 150 miles up the country. It's every season. You go, you know, New Year's Day, you're back to zero, and it is a very sort of dog-eat-dog, sort of slightly vicious world. You know, everyone loves to pat you on the back when you do well, but they love to talk behind your back when you're doing badly, and that is just the way of it. So yeah. But that's the challenge. That's what anyone who's involved in. You know, I'm not an athlete, very clearly. But when you're involved in a professional
I don't know.
sport,
I've heard people say that when you did the show jumping at the at the Newmarket Open Day, that you cut quite an impressive figure.
Oh, I'm not sure the poor horse I had to ride would have agreed.
I'm saying nothing.
Do you still head out on the grounds at Manor House on your hack in the morning, or not?
No. We do have a very dear horse called Extremity. My assistant Angie, who's been with me 12 seasons, rides him through the winter and looks after the babies. He was a decent handicapper back in the day, but no, I don't. I mean, you've been to Manor House. It's not like you're in Newmarket, where the state. You know, my yard in Newmarket was 3/4 of a mile from the bottom of Warren Hill. But yeah, I fell off my hack the first morning. I had one in Newmarket. It was a Sunday morning, and I'd gone out with one horse who was having a canter, and she cantered up the polytrack up Warren Hill, and I was watching her, and I just kicked my hack, this is the first time ever in Newmarket Heath, into a canter where the discs were in the white discs to canter up, and this horse was a hunter. He'd never seen a white disc before, and he whipped round quick as like that. I flopped out the front door onto the sodden ground, and it being Sunday morning, and this was quite some years ago, all my friends who were then all the assistants, like Matt Kumani and Dave Eustace, and I forget who else, George Scott was Jane Sess's assistant. They were all there watching their strings, so taking pictures of it. And my horse had a brand new rug, and it said Hugo Palmer Racing, and it bolted back home over the big roundabout by the clock tower. So my time on a hack has never really been very successful.
Do you miss Newmarket?
No. I mean, there are times where, you know, we've got one gallop, we're about to put in a grass gallop. There are times when I think, God, I'd love to be able to gallop this horse right-handed or something like that, and, you know, and that just doesn't work. There are times when you think maybe, you know, that is the great advantage in Newmarket. You've got 3,000 acres. You know, if you can't find a gallop to suit a horse in Newmarket, but 99.9% of the time, I'm very glad to be out of Newmarket. Obviously, the sales are there. There's racing there. I still spend quite a lot of time in Newmarket. The only thing that I would miss about Newmarket is friends who still live there, but I see them the whole time anyway. So,
do you feel happy to be insulated from the gossip?
Well, I love a good gossip. It's always nice to find on what's, you know, if you want to know what's going on with other people, you have to accept people are going to gossip about you, I suppose. But no, I mean, I don't. Look, I mean, the nice thing about Newmarket is running into people every morning and hearing what they have to say, and you always get an amusing pearl of wisdom from some art press.
You've got the option of not running into people. If you go for a meal now, the restaurant's not going to be full of owners and ex-owners and trainers and people that from the industry.
Yeah.
Is that a good thing?
It is. Well, look, it's quite nice. It's quite refreshing. It's quite nice to go to somebody's house and to meet people, and and you say to someone, you know, God, so what do you do? And you talk about their life. Whereas a Newmarket dinner party, everyone knows what everyone does. They all do exactly the same thing. But it's look, of course, it's different. But I'm enjoying the difference.
Good. And you smiled wryly when I asked Hugo about whether he missed the gossip in Newmarket, but then you know what price you have to pay for being in the public eye your entire life. How do you apparently wear that as easily as you do, or is it just an act?
No, I mean, it's probably been my life, I guess, isn't it? It was, you know, since I was 17.
And probably before, I guess, you knew that you were on a path to.
Yeah, no, I mean, this industry
is
is up there with football. You know, word gets. Listen, both industries are villages, really. You know, there's a set of players, there's a set.
Well,
of
one's a village, one's a kind of little hamlet, isn't it?
But, I mean, you know, once you're in the inner circle, all of a sudden, and one tiny rumour spreads, and it was like that at football. It's actually been quite phenomenal in the last year or so in racing. I mean, listen, I've heard rumours all my life, and it's not always about Manor House, it's about the whole industry. But I mean, the last year or so, well, the last couple of years since Hugo's obviously been at Manor House, there seems to be a new rumour every single month, which is quite strange. But no,
you've left about 5 times, haven't you?
I have, yeah. I mean, I'd love to know where people think I'm going.
Well, I think that's it then, isn't it? I think we're all on and dusted. Is it fair to say then that you have quite a bit of confidence in this relationship sustaining as you get to know each other?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, listen, Hugo's not going to be a trainer all his life, is he? You know, hopefully he's going to be a trainer for another 10 or 15 years. And that'll be amazing. I'll still be, you know, this will be my life. Manor House is my life, you know. But, of course, this is like well, they're all critical times. It's a crucial time for the stables. I think I've got the right man in place, and I want him to stay for a long, long time. And, you know, we've spoken about it loads of times, you know, different plans, the future, what it holds, where we're going to put up the next stable, the next barn, you know, where we're going to put the treadmills, where we're going to do, you know, our plans, you know, we're for the future. So, yeah, we're really looking forward to it. And I'm not, as I say, you know, everyone knows me, I can't do anything in halves. You know, my ambitions are to take it as high as we can, you know. People will laugh, but I want Hugo to be a champion trainer one day. And that would be, you know, that would be the most fulfilling thing for Manor House to have, you know, champion trainer written over its door as well. So, and I know that might sound miles off, it might sound pie in the sky, but so there's a lot of things that you know, that have come and gone in my career.
Absolutely. I mean, and if you said 6, 7 years ago, Hugo, that somebody would be saying, I think Hugo Palmer will be champion trainer one day, nobody would have been that surprised because you were off the back of classic success. But you identified that comments like that get thrown around for a finite period of time. And unless you are champion trainer within 3 years, everyone says, oh, well, you know, that's
well, absolutely. We had those 2 wonderful years where Covert Love won the Irish Oaks 2015, Galileo Gold backed it up the following year by winning the Guineas. And then when we didn't win a classic for the 3rd year in a row, people started saying, well, what's happened? Well, what's happened to Hugo Palmer? We still had 90 winners that year.
He can't turn a 30-grand horse into a classic winner.
Or not every year. I mean, and again, I always, and you can't imagine, I don't go through a certain amount of soul searching as well. And you start. I remember the following year we had, I think he's probably still in training with David O'Meara. We had Escobar, and I sort of believed that because he was definitely the best that we had, and he'd won the race doesn't exist anymore, the Washington Singer at Newbury, and. When he was only 106 rated handicapper, then, it wasn't good enough. If he was 15% better, he probably would have won the Guineas, but he wasn't. And, we've got to find those horses again. I do every year, you look at the good horses and you think, did I miss it? But there aren't many Group 1 winners ever that were bought for a song and go on to do it, and I'm not sure there've been any classic winners that I can particularly think of. You'll probably tell me I'm wrong, but since Galileo Gold that have been bought for 20-odd grand.
Well, if there are, there's certainly very few of them. I want to tie in a couple of themes here. You spent time in Australia before you started training, and I know you had a great time there, and your wife Vanessa's Australian, you've got a great affinity with the country and admire what they do with the racing. You talked about bringing new ownership into the yard and also some potentially quite big spending people all getting together. Do you think that high-end shared ownership model where people are spending quite a lot of money, but there's 15 or 20 of them, can actually compete on the Group 1 stage against the huge behemoth battalions?
There isn't any reason technically why it couldn't, but it just doesn't seem to in the same way in this country. And
is it because we don't like sharing quite as much, do you think?
Possibly.
You're nodding.
But at the same time, Michael has been incredibly, as he said earlier, ballsy, but, punchy, and he was being very modest. He's utterly brilliant at finding new owners to come in. You only have to go to Dubai for 20 minutes on holiday, and he goes, oh, you've just met someone at the pool bar, wants to come to Manor House when we get back next week. But to actually go and, imagine, I don't know how many hundreds or millions of pounds we spent on horses this year, but to go there and to take on Coolmore and to buy a Frankel out of a Group 1 winner for 2.2 million is go, right, we're going to find 20 people to put in 110,000 or something. That happens in Australia, but I'm not sure you'd do it in this country. I'm not sure you would find that many people. People would say, no, I'm happy to spend £100,000 on a horse, but if it's going to do that, it's going to be my horse.
And one of the reasons why it can happen in Australia, of course, is because they're running a race for $1 million every single week of the year, or twice a week every year, or whatever that is. And you've been very active politically, and you're going to be the president of the NTF time but one?
Time but one, after Nick Alexander.
So Nick Alexander's going to take over from Rafe Beckett very soon, and then you'll be the next man in after that. I was going to say, do you know what you're letting yourself in for? But you do know what you're letting yourself in for.
Well, I think everyone who's done it has probably felt that. But I think, I've always felt it's important that if you care about things and people ask you to do things, that you try and do them to the best of your ability. And I do care about the future of racing, and I do care about the trainers' lot, and anything that I can do in any small way over that period of time to improve it, I'd be keen to try and do.
OK, what's exercising you most at the moment? And we're in a particularly crucial time as well, with premierisation and the Thoroughbred Group commercial agreements just about to be driven through. Peter Saville sitting there in the siding somewhere.
The commercial agreements, I think, are very key. We need to do everything that we can to ensure that the participants in British racing are as well rewarded for that participation as possible. And it's all heated up, as you say, quite a lot. You had the Julie Harrington calling for more transparency in her Gimcrack speech. You've got the Jockey Club opening their books and saying we're going to be transparent. And you've got Martin Cruddas saying I've got nothing to hide, but I'm going to hide it. And it's going to be very interesting how it all plays out.
How do you think it will play out?
I don't know. I do see Martin as possibly being left out in the cold a little bit. I thought his language in his interview in the Racing Post last week was pretty inflammatory by saying he's got nothing to hide, but he's going to hide it. And if anyone wants to see it, they're financially illiterate or economically illiterate. I thought certainly lots of people have said it hasn't sat very well with them, and it doesn't also make a lot of sense. If he's got nothing to hide, show it. And I accept that his business model, the ARC business model, is a different business model to the Jockey Club business model. But it's a pretty depressing business model as well. I mean, racing is a spectator sport. And to decide, right, we're going to run this in a way that we're just going to take the media rights money, we're going to dumb it down to a level, we don't really care if people come racing. They're treating it like greyhound racing. It's akin to a farmer saying, I'm not going to plant any crops, I'll just take my single farm payment, thank you very much. And then being up in arms saying, oh, well, my business model's different to a man who actually plants crops.
Michael, you're somebody who has Chester Racecourse on his doorstep. It is, no pun intended, your manor. You, I'm sure, get extremely well looked after there, and you take an awful lot of your clients there. So on that level, you might be looking at it through slightly rose-tinted spectacles, but given your experience in other sport, how well or otherwise does racing do in actually giving the people who are investing in the sport an experience commensurate with their spend?
Yeah, I mean, I might be rose-tinted glasses because I believe that I sit on the doorstep of one of the best racetracks in terms of how they look after their clients, the facilities.
And you are going to get the red carpet rolled out for you as well, somewhat.
Well, we're probably their biggest client.
Yeah.
I mean, I often joke to Hugo, I mean, we penciled in at the bottom of, you must be leading trainer at Chester every single year that you're at Manor House, but it's not quite true. But he started well.
You did train a lot of winners at Chester last year, didn't you?
We did, and the year before, actually. Joint with Andrew Balding the year before, and then we...
That must have annoyed you.
Yeah, really. Furious.
But no, Chester is a very good course, and they look after you well. And of course, you know, you were touching on maybe some of the disadvantages of being in the Northwest, having a training operation. Whether that's true or not is open to debate. But we also have a real catchment area of wealth, of people that absolutely love a day at the races. We've got one of the best tracks, as I say, for hosting people and having that day out. We've got some lovely tracks as well. I think you said when you came up, actually, there's more tracks closer to you now than there were when you were in Newmarket.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, the whole process of weighing up whether to do it, and I went through working out how far Newmarket was from every track in the country and Manor House. I think we're actually closer to 34 of the 36 flat tracks or something. I mean, obviously, Yarmouth, Newmarket, Chelmsford, not. But we're pretty well equidistant from places like Newbury, and we're much closer to all the tracks in Yorkshire, of which there are a lot.
So you have that base. You feel you have that base of all the major cities in the Northwest should all be pouring into you.
Well, that's what we've got to believe. Listen, I'm not going to lift Manor House Stables and put it anywhere else in the country. That's where I live. That's where I'm from. That's where a load of our owners are, and we're going to make the best of it. And I take it as a positive that we're a standout yard in that area. Let's farm our own area and then go further afield, which we've obviously done. Hugo was far and away the top trainer at Chester last season, but we're not thinking right Chester. I mean, we've got grand ambition. We've got 4 horses in the Middle East at the moment, 2 in Bahrain, 1 going to Qatar, 1 in Dubai. A filly of ours an owner of ours was 3rd in the Cape Verde Group 2 the other day.
Stenton Glider.
Yeah, so I mean it's great that we're out there on the international scene as well, and we only want to improve on that.
That's a beautiful way of being able to show your Brown Panther winning the Dubai Gold Cup again.
I would love to say I had an earpiece and I could link or help the link.
Any excuse. Here he is, the old boy. Wonderful, wonderful horse.
Yeah. No, he was. He just gave me so much joy. Took you all 4 corners of the world. Australia, the Breeders' Cup, Canada, Germany, France, here in Dubai. He was a marvellous horse, and yeah, I'm not sure I'll ever have one like that again.
I'd be interested to know where you think you'd be now in terms of your racing interest were it not for him, the extent to which he drove you on.
I'd still be here, Nick.
Would you?
Yeah. Listen, he was an incredible horse. I think I'll have a horse probably as good as him, if not better.
You might
in
have
my
had
life.
horses. You might have had the odd horse better.
Yeah. I mean,
But not like
officially
that.
not. I think the thing with him is he took me so many places, and the longevity of him. You know, he was a stayer and he went everywhere, and you know, he lasted for years. I bred him. I'm sure, as I say, I'm sure in my life, hopefully I've got a long way to go. I'm sure I'll have a better horse. I'm sure I'll have, you know, another Group 1
Well, you've
horse.
got to believe that, haven't you?
Yeah, but as I say, as much as that is a part of it, I mean, people say, where do you want to go with racing? Well, I'm like, I'm actually where I want to be. I absolutely, as I say, spring out of it. I love where we are at the minute. Employing, you know, 40-something people, 130 odd horses in training, a trainer that's a multiple classic winning trainer. I mean, the place is just a dream. It's one of the best facilities in the country. It's just like, what do you want me to say? Yeah, I want to win the Derby. Of course I want to win the Derby. I want him to be the leading trainer, champion trainer. Of course I want all these things. But do you know what? Where I am at the minute is fantastic as well. If we sustain this and had a load of success along the way, then I'm as happy as Larry as we speak.
You're the child who owns the sweet shop.
Sadly, I eat them all as well. I had to say it before he did.
Well, I don't think he'd be on particularly safe ground. I don't think any of us around here would be on particularly safe ground on that one. How's your punting these days?
Taking a back seat, really, yeah.
Probably a good thing, is it?
I still like the odd bet, but I used to be just, loved it.
Were you as nuts as people made out?
Did people make out I was nuts?
Well, I think there was a suggestion that you were pretty committed.
Committed. That's a good word. Yeah.
And I need to be careful because obviously I don't want to seem to be promoting anything irresponsible.
No,
but
the word committed was a good one.
Yeah.
No, I would get home from training every day and bosh, Racing Channel on every time. I wouldn't miss a race. I could tell you the numbers on every trainer, jockey. If you named a horse, I'd be able to give you its pedigrees and everything. I don't watch racing as much as I did because I haven't got the time to do that. And as I say, racing has taken me sort of, and I still enjoy the whole package, but it used to be betting, and that's probably the furthest one down the list now. However, if we're on a day out and I fancy one, I'll still have a bet. I'm not against betting, of course. But I'd be 5-10% activity-wise that I used to be.
And do you think that's just getting older, your children growing up, more responsibilities, just more of a sense of not having to have a bet in every race?
I think it's the involvement of the yard as well. There's that much going on. If I go to Manor House in the morning, I want to talk to Hugo about the horses.
Yeah.
Like, where are they? What are they doing? What stage are we at? Where are the 2-year-olds? I think the last question would be, we've got a runner today. Do we fancy it? I think I picked up the phone on a handful of occasions in 2 years to Hugo and says, do we fancy this? I'm going to have a bet today. I might, if we're all out with the lads in the in the local pub or something, we got a couple of runners, I might phone them and say, what are we thinking here? But in general, I've got so much more going on than and as I say, betting probably takes a back seat.
And can you build this business big enough that it can start really investing to the level that you want to invest in the facilities and the place, or does a lot of it still fall on you?
Yeah, no, it falls on me, but yeah, absolutely. Listen, I can't go and say, right, yeah, we're going to go and build grass scouts tomorrow, we're going to go and buy half a dozen treadmills, we're going to go and buy more land and horses and everything else like that. We have to do it at a certain pace, but that's not to say that the ambition's not there to do it, and it's not to say we are going to do it. We're going to continue to up the facilities, and of course, it's all right having good facilities, but you want the good horses as well on the track. So there's a balance there because, of course, I'm buying a leg of this, a leg of that, and certain horses as well for our squad to go forward. So, but it's safe to say that, as you know, I'm in Hong Kong this week. Whenever I earn money, I plough in. I hope my wife's not watching, but whenever I earn money, I plough it straight into Manor House because I just want the best place. I want to give him the best horses to train in the best facility we can possibly have. So I'm not slowing down at all in terms of where we want to get to.
You're a bit young for me to be talking about succession plans, but you're a dad of 4.
Yeah.
And we know that Gemma's a very keen horsewoman, and your wife's been involved as well. Are any or all of the children engaged in Manor House, and have you got someone to push it to the next generation?
I would say James, my son, is my likeliest, and it's happened pretty much in the last year or so.
Really?
Yeah, he's
obsessed, isn't he?
Yeah, he's just me when I was
quite
17.
soon he'll be ringing me up saying, he won't be asking what to back, it'll be James asking what to back.
When I'm saying to him, he's 18 in about 2 weeks, what do you want for your 18? Oh, just open me a betting account, Dad. And he only wants to bet small stakes, don't get me wrong. But no, the whole thing, and he's a little bit like me actually in terms of, he loves going racing and socialising, loves meeting people. And one of the best things about Manor House is that owners come in and they're successful in different areas. That's why they're there. That's why they can afford, obviously, to buy horses. And they're fascinating how they get to the top and how they get to being successful in their own right.
And I was reading your story recently of how James has got a degenerative condition with his eye. Yeah. Very rare, isn't it? And that he'd probably be a top-notch footballer, but obviously that's got harder for him. So is there a competitive sporting outlet that could easily suit him pretty well? Yeah,
he's got a good attitude to life. He's an intelligent lad. He's probably my most academic. I mean, he's always pestering me to come to Manor House, and as soon as I say yes, it's like 35 minutes in the car. He's right, Dad. How many bales of hay do you use to fill a stable? I'm like, well, 5 a week, James. Well, how much is it? And then it's like, well, if you use 4, then that's a bit more on the bottom line. And he's just thinking business all the time. He loves Manor House.
Has he got a sharper business brain than you when you were that age?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm learning on the job in many ways. I've got people in place, and I'm not scared of that. Put the best people in place. And if I'm in a board meeting and I'm the least bright in the whole room, then I see that as a positive. I'm
always interested when I see you at the races and getting such a kick out of it and being very positive about horse racing, when the vast majority of people in the sport will talk about how the sport needs to be sexier, shinier, younger, more dynamic, more like football. When you hear people saying all of that, what do you think? What are you thinking? Having been in the most high-profile entertainment business in Europe, certainly.
I agree in some respects. I'd love prize money to be better, wouldn't we all? I'd love everything to be better. But I also think, as you rightly say, there's a lot of people that just doom and gloom all the time. I mean, I'm full throttle, full steam ahead. I've never had the business in a better shape, more people wanting to get involved, as I said earlier. So I can only go by how I'm feeling, and I've got nothing but positives about the industry at the moment. So yeah, there are a lot of things that we need to iron out. Hopefully Hugo can assist in that when he gets into that role as well. But and there's brighter people than me that will hopefully do the right thing for the future of the sport. But there's so much to be positive about with horse racing. There's so much, and I think as well, sometimes we try to go after things that aren't that. Do we want that football culture? We say we want that younger crowd. We want this. We want that. But do we? Do we want that sort of that? I've been in football all my life, and I wouldn't really want to take my kids to a football game nowadays. There's a lot of drinking, there's a lot of swearing, there's a lot of all kinds of things. And, football crowd is a certain type, it's necessarily the racing crowd as well. And I don't really get that when people say, oh, we need to bring that type of crowd in. There's a lot to be able to shout about in the game. And as I say, I'm very positive about it, notwithstanding the fact that we do need to obviously get our ducks in a row a little bit.
People will be quite interested to hear you saying that, particularly the bit about what a crowd is like at a football match now, when all I've heard for the last decade and a half or 2 decades is the gentrification of football, and it's not as real and community-based as...
I mean, if I was to say one negative about racing, it's a lot of the time, in recent times, I've gone to the likes of Royal Ascot, I've gone to different big events, And the crowd has felt a little bit different. It feels quite, you know, angry and at
bit
the end
edgier.
of it, yeah. And I've seen a lot more fighting than it feels, and that type of thing. So I often wonder, is this what we're encouraging here? But as I say, you know, we all want racing to be popular, and we all think it's, you know, it's great, you know, us within. But
well, if we don't,
and
of course.
well, exactly.
Yeah.
We've got a lot to be proud of, I think.
And when you wake up at God knows what time in the morning and have 120, 150 horses to train and all the challenges that goes with it, to what extent does this sort of mindset remind you why you relocated from your classic winning yard to Manor House?
Michael's phenomenally positive, but I think he's beyond that. What he's saying, you know, he is absolutely right. I mean, all four of us are only sitting on this sofa because horse racing has got under our skin at various points in our youth. We've all become addicted to it. It's our careers. And there are still people out there falling in love with the sport every day. British racing does a huge amount right. It's why people travel from far better remunerated systems in Australia to Hong Kong to come and race at Royal Ascot. We do an enormous amount right. Of course, we've got challenges, but I think, you know, I think we should also be prouder of what we do so well.
Hugo, thank you very much. Michael, thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you.
Dear, oh dear, 5 o'clock straight off the plane from Hong Kong. Straight here, and now you're off to, I don't know what you're off to do now, but...
Sunday lunch.
Sunday lunch,
yeah.
Something like that. Enjoy it. Neil, thank you very much. I had no idea where you're going back to, but ultimately you'll be settling in Brighton, I think.
Well, for a few weeks, yeah.
For a few
I'll be
weeks.
Settling up, maybe.
Yeah. Racing's most infamous nomad back in business, and with a relatively tame shirt today.
I know. I had a more spectacular one lined up and a change of heart at the last minute.
Okay, well, very good to see you. And my thanks to Dan Skelton for his contributions earlier on today. Best of luck to him at Lingfield this afternoon, and indeed to Daryl Jacob, reminiscing over a quarter of a century of hard endeavour in the saddle, which is still going, happier than ever. Hopefully we've left you with plenty of things to be positive about. We will see you same time, same place next week. From all of us here on Luck on Sunday, it's bye for now.
Watch live racing now on racingtv.com.